let's just sew whatever. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be making the Felicity Tote by Bagstock Designs. Whoa. This bag is a time investment. There are a lot of pieces to it, but it's so gorgeous. Just look at this. I added handle connectors instead of the full strap just because I like the handles to lay flat. But I love that this bag can be made with very minimal hardware, so if you don't have it on hand, you could use what you have. But I cut these to 11 inches tall and folded them down to 9.5 inches tall. So if you hear anything else in the video, it's wrong. Listen to me. The me now, not the me later, which was the me before. Anyway, so it's got this gorgeous flap in the front, a slip pocket, a zippered pocket, a trolley sleeve, and a zippered pocket, and then this perky zipper panel and a center divider, but it doesn't divide the bag, so if you're looking for that, this isn't it. And then it's got a zippered pocket and these cargo slip pockets, which this pattern is worth the instructions for this pocket situation alone, because I feel like a lot of slip pockets, they don't have a lot of room to grow. So these are great. This pattern is incredible, and as always, Bagstock knocks it out of the park. My interfacings that I used are SewFuse Plus and SewFuse, and then Decaville Heavy along the bottom, and that's it. This is the water resistant canvas that I have on my website every once in a while, not always. And I used leather with it, and I want to say it's for me, but I don't know. But if I sell it, I probably wouldn't sell it for less than $280, which feels like a lot of money. But with time and expenses, etc., especially being leather, you're worth it. It's worth it. I'm worth it. So I hope you enjoy this tutorial. If you're not subscribed already, I would love it if you would. We're so close to 50,000, and it's not about the numbers, but it's about the number. So yeah, enjoy. I also wanted to show what this bag can hold. This is my iPad Pro. I think it's the 13-inch. It doesn't quite fit in the center divider, but I think if you made the zipper tabs just a hair smaller, it totally would. And this is my giant water bottle. Fits nicely in there and would still zip up. Oh, it's heavy, but that's because my water bottle's full. Whoa. Oh yeah, that is perfect. So with leather, a lot of times it needs to be skived. Like, look how freaking thick this leather is. Here's my little guide to test the leather thickness. So this leather thickness is about a 3 ounce, I believe. And we want to skive it down to about a 2 ounce leather so that we can actually sew it without having too bulky a seam. So you can see how nice and flat that lays versus this, like super thick. So that is the whole purpose of skiving. You want to make sure that you use a scrap piece first to test out and make sure that your thicknesses are correct, and then just go to town. There is a guide here so you can select how wide you're skiving. So we're getting it nice and thin, which is great. I don't want this bag to be super bulky. That's not going to be fun. And you can see just how thick this is. So I've basically created like a suede, and you could use this for something, I don't know what, but yeah. You want to make sure that you're not skiving an area twice, basically. So I'm going nice and slow there so I can kind of work around the corners. And again, I'm starting past where my last skiving stopped. I am going to still interface this leather with a little bit of SewFuse Plus. I don't want to use Decaville Light because I'm worried that's going to be just way too thick. But I definitely want to use something so that it isn't too floppy. But again, you want to skive down any leather so that your machine doesn't cry trying to sew over it, causing you to also cry when sewing over it. I am in no way an expert at leather crafting or skiving leather, etc. I had a little teaching session with Garth of Myth Leather Co. So if you ever want to know more about leather, definitely check out his videos. But there is that all done. And then I'm going to work on a few of the other pieces, like this flap here, really quick. Don't skive with the right side up. That would be very bad. I find skiving to be really relaxing and satisfying. But you definitely want to be careful when doing it. And like these strap connectors here, I basically want to skive these all the way down. Any thickness on these is going to be to my detriment. So I'm kind of removing all of the backing, which again, you want to be very careful when doing that. So I've got a little bit left, but I don't think that's going to be that big of a deal. This is going to be my crossbody strap connector, so you can see how much thinner that is now as we're folding it over. I can get a nice clean edge versus this. You see all that thickness. So I definitely recommend, if you are wanting to work with leather, investing in a skiver is going to be very helpful. Get that last little bit. There we go. Okay, so I am starting with the flap of this bag. I am using a magnetic snap instead of the flip lock, just because I don't have any flip locks on hand. So on the lining fabric of my flap, I have marked 1 1/4 inch from the bottom edge, and I'm going to install my my outie piece there. So I'm going to mark out with my washer, use my seam ripper very carefully to poke those holes. And then on the other side, push the piece in and add my washer. And then I will repeat that for the other side. I'm just gonna really quick flip or clip my flap together. Putting right sides together and clipping around that outer edge. Hold it all in place. And so we want to use piece D, making sure that it's wider than it is tall, and I'm going to fold that in half to mark out the center and measure 1.5 inches down. In the center. And then if you want to, you can stabilize a little bit more behind your magnetic snap. Be careful when you're poking magnetic snap. Jennifer, you cursed me. Okay. And there we have our magnetic snap pieces installed. All right, I'm going to take one of my smaller zipper pieces and just take that pull right off. You don't need it. Just kidding. Let's add that back on. To attach that to the top of this zipper pocket panel. And you can base that in place, use double-sided tape. I'm just going to clip it, and then I'll add the lining piece, which is much longer. Lay that over the top of that so that right sides are together. And sew along that top edge. And then I'm going to press all of that down and top stitch through the exterior and the lining. And then we'll flip up the lining to match the top edge of our zipper. Clip that into place. And then you can base that in place or tape it, and then we're going to add the top portion over that. And then we'll just press this up and top stitch through there. And then I'm gonna make sure I pull my zipper pull into that piece before I go anywhere else with it. And then we're gonna grab piece F, the backing, and clip the top edge together. Sew along. And I probably didn't need to interface the backing piece with Sew Fuse Plus. I think it would have been fine without it, but then we're going to flip this to create our slip pocket. And top stitch along that seam. And then we may as well baste around the rest of our pocket. And then again, make sure that your zipper pull is within your seam allowance. And then I'm just going to trim down all of my excess. And I think I didn't use quite a big enough seam allowance when I attached my zipper, so I'm trimming down the bottom to match the backing piece so that everything is the correct size. And there is our front slip pocket portion. I'm gonna go ahead and work on my flap while I'm here as well, just to get that out of the way. I'm gonna sew around in a U shape, just following the outside edge of that interfacing. I decided to use Decaville Light for my flap instead of the fleece. But if you are using the flip lock hardware, you definitely want to use that fleece. It's going to add a little more thickness for your hardware. Okay. So my leather is stretching just a little bit because I was sewing with it leather side down, and the leather is fairly thin, but that's okay. I'm going to trim this down. And flip through. I also didn't use fleece because I have such a thick leather. I didn't want to add more bulk to already top stitching this. Okay. And I'm going to clip the top edge together. Make sure my stitch length is set to a wider top stitching length and go around that outside edge. And then if you want to baste across the top, you absolutely can. And then I'm going to trim off that uneven bit of leather. And just kind of line that up to make sure it looks good. It's very pretty. And then I'm gonna unzip my zipper to the center so that it doesn't get in the way while I'm attaching this to the exterior of the bag. Grabbing one of my exterior panels, I'm gonna fold it in half. And I may as well snip out my centers while I'm here. And then I'm gonna fold this piece in half as well. There are measurements for how far away from each side it should be. So after I find my center, I'll then measure that out to make sure I've got everything lined up nicely. So I'm gonna clip along the bottom. And then we're gonna measure. It says 5 inches 3/8, so that's 5.5. And that one is 5 3/8. So let's see. There we go. There we go. Perfect. And then we're just going to base that in place in a U shape. And our straps are going to cover the edges that are raw. So pretty. All right, so now we're going to attach that flap and baste it in place. This is another place you want to make sure you've got it centered. So I'm going to fold this in half. And lay it into the center. Okay, perfect. And baste that down. So there's that. And then we're gonna grab our exterior top piece A, which is one of my leather bits in this pile. There we go. And you're gonna lay that right sides together. If your print is directional, make sure it's facing down. So that way when you flip it up, it's in the right direction. I skived this top edge so that I wouldn't have so much bulk at the top edge of my bag. And then we're gonna be using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then we'll flip that up and top stitch on the exterior fabric. And there's our flap. Got this great slip pocket, this nice zippered pocket. I love a multi-use pocket. The next piece we're going to work on is the trolley sleeve. And for that, we just have our exterior and our lining. I interfaced my exterior with SewFuse Plus. I'm gonna grab one of my other zippers. It's not this one. It's like our second smallest size zipper. And I'm gonna use my double-sided tape for this so nothing shifts around on me. And the way this comes together is so cool. So we're gonna tape together one piece, and then we'll add our lining to the other side. And if you haven't worked with the water-resistant canvas, I sell, you can kind of see these like whitish creases. That is the wrong side of the fabric, and the other side is the right side of the fabric. So I've got right sides together, sewing along the top. And then we're gonna open that up. Just gonna finger crease and top stitch. And then we're gonna bring up the other side to the top, making sure it stays nice and straight. Turn it around, grab another piece of double-sided tape. So you've got your linings together and your exteriors together. Boop and boop. Sew along that top edge. Unzip it. I'm gonna make sure that I top stitch along this open edge so that my zipper pull doesn't fly off, just in case. But we're gonna flip it so that right sides are together. And I am finger pressing that down so that we can top stitch through there. And am I glad that I basted that zipper pull in place? You know, it would be easier going the other way. And this might even be easier to add your zipper pull after if you're able to get everything lined up. So if you're a confident zipper pull placer, I think you'd have no issues there. got that top stitch, so now we can flip it to put right sides of your lining together. Zip up that zipper. Careful not to zip it off. Look how cool that is. My goodness. Okay. And then you want 3/4 of an inch at the top. So right now I've got like an inch from the top. It's kind of where I naturally wanted to go. So I just want to make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to finger crease that and run my ruler along to help really fold into place. I'm going to press everything together. And definitely make sure that you bring your zipper pull back in onto your trolley sleeve. And you're just going to be top stitching. Oh, okay. You top stitch across the whole thing, which makes sense. Okay. And then trim away all of the excess. And there is the trolley sleeve. Technically my zipper is going the wrong way, but if my fabric wasn't directional, all I would need to do is kind of pull this up. I just kind of pulled it the wrong way and I wasn't thinking about it, but I don't mind myself. I don't care. Just thinking, you could also add a woven label or a sew-in label. I have one of these I wanted to add to the bag somewhere. And I'm just thinking if right here would be a good place, because this isn't really, I mean, it's usable, but what are you gonna stick up there? You know what I mean? I wonder. It's kind of a perfect fit there. I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna sew this on. This woven label is from Heartwood and Hide. The Heartwood and Hide designs. It is a leather label and it is stunning. So what I'm just doing is I folded it in half to get my center marked out. I'm adding a piece of double-sided tape to the back side. And I'm gonna go ahead and fold this in half. I'm gonna need the center marked out anyway. And then I'm gonna lay that in the center. Oh yeah. And then you can use your ruler just to verify. So that's 3 inches and that's 3 inches. Perfect. And then I'm just gonna sew around the outside edge. And I'm just pulling my threads to the back to clip off. Okay, honestly, I'm happy with just this existing. Like, if this is all I love of the bag, I love this enough. Folding my exterior panel center. And this piece here, I find my ruler. Oh, there it is. So we want this to be 1.5 inches from the top edge. Okay. And then we want it to be 5 3/8 from the outer edge. Okay. Oh. For some reason mine is a little bit bigger, so I'm gonna go with 5. Oh wait, no, that is that 3/8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, mine is like 5 and some change. 1 and 2. So it might not be exact. Yep, there we go. And just double check that it looks fairly well centered, and then you're going to sew just those open raw edges into place. And if you need to use double-sided tape to hold it down so it doesn't shift, it's not a bad idea. And then the whole point of this piece is so that you can stick this on your suitcase. So you should be able to stick your arm through the bottom and up the top. If you don't want that, if you just want it to be another pocket you add to your bag, just sew in a U shape. Because then you'd have a slip pocket here and your zippered pocket here. Oh my gosh, look at that. That's so delicious. And next we're going to be adding our top panel, just like we did on the exterior. I'm going to lay this into place. My skived edge is along the top, so it's facing down. So if you have a directional print or similar situation, make sure it's facing down. And 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then we'll fold that up and top stitch through the exterior fabric. Oh my gosh. Can you just, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. All right, so now I'm gonna be working on my handles. I am doing mine a little bit differently because I prefer my handles to be able to lay down if I wish, and I'm adding a crossbody strap. Sorry, I had to sneeze. So what I'm gonna do is I have cut these pieces to throw them in the trash. Gosh darn it. No, double-sided tape, don't give up on me. So that I can have strap connectors and they're not just handles. So I cut these to 15 inches tall by 2 inches wide. I also didn't have enough leather to create strap connectors, whatnot. But I thought if I had like a faux rolled handle would also be really pretty. Kind of like the Taisteal tote has from SewGnar. So I did skive the top edge of this connector. This leather isn't super thick, but it is a little bit thicker than I'd ideally like. So that's why we went ahead and did that. Okay, so I'm going to fold all of these into the center. And if for some reason these measurements don't work out, I will have added on the screen what measurements you should have used. But I think 15 inches is good. I do like that Bagstock Designs has pretty minimal hardware overall, and the hardware she does incorporate is kind of statement pieces in a way, with like flip locks. You can get really creative with those. But if you didn't have a lot of hardware on hand, you could very easily make one of her bags. Grabbing my 1-inch simple square rings. Almost threw that away. If you purchase a lot of hardware and you have a lot of those baggies, feel free to email me because we will take them. We reuse a lot of baggies. They don't need to go in the landfill. They can have a new life. All right, so I'm adding a piece of double-sided tape to the base of the strap connector, as well as a small piece along the top, because I'm not sure how far I'm going to fold over. But I know it's going to be at least 1 inch. Probably 1.5 inches, honestly. Okay. So there's that, and then we're gonna grab our front panels so I can see. Oh wow, okay. That's a lot of fold over. Dang it. Okay, that's okay. I can cut off from the bottom. So let's see. I think, honestly, 12 inches, maybe 10 inches. 9 inches? how tall is this? This is 11 inches. So yeah, probably cutting your strap connector to 11 inches will be better. Let's see what that looks like. Fold it down to 9.5. Oh yeah, that looks perfect. Okay, so 11 inches by length, folding it down to 9.5. Okay, so these are nicely pressed into place. My camera just kind of shut off, so I don't know what you might have missed me saying. Oh. But I have cut my handles to 26 inches long. If you want them to be longer, cut them longer. If you want them to be shorter, cut them shorter. All right, 4 3/4. And if for some reason this isn't covering up like the raw edges of your pocket, you may want to increase that length from each outer edge by a little bit. And then make sure that all of your spare threads are snipped so they don't poke through. Here we go. Okay, 4 3/4, and up to the bottom, nice and straight. And I am pressing that leather up against the ruler so that it is aligned with that straight edge. And it looks great. So now we will go ahead and top stitch those into place. And then I'm using this little strap piece here to protect my fabric from the rough foot of this machine. Oh my goodness. Look how beautiful. And I'm kind of evening up where I top stitched that connector with where I've top stitched that panel. And if you wanted to add a woven label, you could slip one underneath that strap connector. Like you could slip it under there or on that side, what have you. But this is one of our front panels, almost done. And I'm going to push down there. I would add a rivet, but this leather is super thick, so I don't think it would be doing me any favors to add a rivet there. My stitching is strong enough. And we'll just repeat top stitching on this side. And if you wanted to have some fun with your top stitching, you could even kind of do like the Ora Rosa handle and come in a little bit from that edge as well. Or you could top stitch your connector closer to the inside edge to keep your raw edges down, and then sew all the way around at 1/8 of an inch. So top stitch at 1/4 of an inch and then top stitch at 1/8 of an inch onto the bag. That would be really pretty. Especially if you have like a solid color exterior and a really beautiful top stitch thread color or something like that. That would be fun. So now at this point, if you're adding foam, you're gonna base that into place. If you wanna add a metal nameplate, etc., you would do that through the foam as well as the rivets. With the leather that I've added, etc., I believe that the foam is just gonna make this bag way too bulky. But if you're using cotton woven and vinyl, I think you would love the foam if you added it. So at this point, if you're going to do a drop-in lining, which is an option in this bag, you're going to mark 1 inch from the top edge. I think I might try this method. I haven't really before, and I know a lot of the times a drop-in lining sounds really complicated, especially if you're doing it with a zipper, etc. Like if you have to top stitch over the zipper. Like I feel like top stitch or drop-ins have a really bad reputation, but this one is a lot simpler than that, and I'm gonna try it. So I'm marking 1 inch from each top edge of the exterior panels, and we're gonna be like taping the exterior and taping the lining down at that mark, and then just setting them in place and sewing around the outside edge. So there's no birthing process, which I think is really nice, especially if you have hands that get sore when turning the bag, or if you're using materials that won't turn well. Like a lot of the holographic vinyls, they don't turn well. So this is a really great method for those kind of materials. So now we're going to attach the bottom panel to the exterior of our bag. I have not added purse feet, so I'm gonna do that really quick. I'm just using 5 pieces. And again, I am not adding foam to my bottom panel with the leather. It's just too bulky. but I did add a layer of SewFuse Plus as well as my Decoville Heavy. And I think this is going to be really nice for structure to the bag without adding that loftiness that the fleece sometimes adds. And I am also tempted to sew around the outside edge of my Decoville Heavy, but I'm worried if it doesn't turn out. You know. All right, so there's 5, 6. What's this piece cut to? 6. Okay, there's my center. And there's that. So I found center. Oh, turn the light off, turn it back on. Grab my duct tape, my seam ripper. Just gonna poke those holes. And then I'm taking the duct tape long ways. Oh man. Yeah, and then if you want to figure out some sort of top stitch along the bottom panel, I think that could look super cool. I'm just a little worried that things might not end up correctly, so I don't want to top stitch something pretty and then it just look weird in the end, so I'm not going to. Okay, so you don't want to get this far and then accidentally sew your top panel to the bottom. So make sure you've got the right side of the bag facing down and then your exterior panel is centered. I'm going to be using these thicker clips to hold everything together because my materials are thicker. Lay that in place. Make sure everything is centered. Looks good. And then we're going to sew at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I probably should have skived the bottom edge of my connector. But I didn't. Oh, sorry. Will the camera fall? No. Okay, good. And then we're going to push this flap down and sew through this seam. 1/8 of an inch, and then the instructions say you can add another top stitch 1/4 of an inch for decoration if you'd like. And so I feel like if you're doing that to your straps, you may decide you want to do it to the accent pieces as well. Okay, well done. That is delicious. And then we're just going to repeat that to attach the other panel. Again, make sure when you flip it up, it's the right piece. Clip that in place. I'm gonna move my camera really quick, just so I don't risk hitting the camera. And we'll clip this down and top stitch over that edge. And now we're going to mark the center of this notched area. And it is about 4 inches. And then we're going to put right sides together. We want to line up those accent pieces. So I'm starting at the bottom, clipping that together, and I always like to add a clip going the opposite direction out of my seam allowance to hold that all together. And then I'm going to line up that top seam allowance, no, top accent piece. Get that together. Another clip going in the opposite direction. And then I'll kind of work my way through the thinner parts, which I'm going to use just these clips for. Okay. And then 1/2 inch seam allowance. And a back stitch at the top. Secure that into place. And repeat that on the other side. to make sure that your straps are lining up too. Half an inch seam allowance. All right, and then because I am using triangle rings for the crossbody strap, I want to fold those and add my hardware. Technically you could add this in the top seam when you are doing the drop-in lining, but it isn't going to be as strong. So I've skived these pieces as much as I can so that they're nice, thin leather pieces. They fold in so nicely. Grab some more double-sided tape. Triangle rings. Oh yeah, these feel perfect. I was really worried it was going to be way too thick. I am probably going to attach these on just below that top accent piece because I don't want them to get in the way of me doing the drop-in lining. Okay, so I'm going to press open my seam allowance. Yeah, this bag is going to have a lot of body because of that Sew Fuse Plus. So I'm glad that I didn't add the foam. Okay, so I'm just gonna place this right under the overlay. This is kind of perfect too. My overlay was like off by maybe 1/8 of an inch, so this is just gonna kind of hide it. We'll never know. Okay, let's top stitch that. Oh, good. And it stayed nice and flat there, which is awesome. Making sure it's in line with the other one. Yep. So I've just placed it right below. Now we're going to square the bottom of the bag. Using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Open up the side seam and clip that down. And you can line up your center seam with that little mark you made within that notched corner piece. I'm gonna sew right next to, but not through, that Decaville. Bobbin got me. It's always the worst when the bobbin gets you on leather. That's okay, because I can move my seam allowance out just a little bit further to avoid those holes, but you risk perforating as well. So it should be okay, and then I'm going to trim down this corner. So now I'm going to flip the bag right side out, and because we're doing it as a drop-in, this is the only time we're really gonna have to do this, which is great because the materials I used are quite thick with that SewFuse Plus too. You can push out your bottom corner. Check out, everything looks good. Oh, gorgeous. Let me trim down my little spare threads there. So there is the trolley sleeve. Here is that front pocket with a zipper pocket as well. And I love the way it closes nicely on itself. And I'm really excited about the crossbody connector that we used. I love the look of these strap connectors. They're gonna be so pretty. I'm not sure if right now we want to go through and tape down that side. I almost kind of want to while I'm here. So I think I'm gonna take some of this 1/4 inch wide double-sided tape, and I'm gonna tape along above that 1 inch line. Oh, of course I'm almost out. Okay. As I was saying. I'm gonna tape along that opening. And I want to butterfly open my side seam. So that sits nicely. If your machine does not like double-sided tape, this probably isn't a good idea. So keep that in mind. I believe the Rudeneja bag from Lavender and Twine has a drop-in finish like this. So this is a really good beginner version of that, I think, for me. Because I definitely want to make that bag. It's so pretty. All of Lavender and Twine designs are so pretty, but I just haven't had time to make one. It's my goal for this year. Erica told me I have to. Go ahead and I'm going to slowly peel the tape. I'm not going to peel it all off at once because then I'm just dealing with opportunity for mistakes. I'm worried that my top side seam is a little bulky with all that leather. Oh, there's a nice echo. Do I sound like I'm on an old-time radio? Okay. So I'm just being extra careful to line it up to that marking, that 1 inch marking line. so there is the exterior. Looking good. I almost grabbed it by the handles. It would have handles, but mine doesn't. Oh, it stands up so nicely. So now I'm going to quickly do the straps because I have a brand new bobbin, and then we'll start on our lining. I decided to use tape for the crossbody strap, so I'm folding the long raw edges in towards the center, and I just have to say, look at that pattern matching. Not like it's gonna matter, but it's kind of cool. Okay, and then I'm going to change my stitch length to a 5 and top stitch along all the sides of the strap. I think I want this to be the top. Yeah, that's pretty. So I'll grab my snap hooks and my slide adjuster. Start with my side adjuster. I do sell wide mouth side adjusters, but I do not need that for the water resistant canvas. Yeah, that's correct. So I'm going to fold over that edge, top stitch. Grab my other snap hook, slide that through. And I'll fold that over so that there's no raw edges. My crossbody strap is finished. It looks so pretty. For my leather straps, I'm going to be marking the 1-inch center line. And then I'm going to use double-sided tape, the 1/4 inch wide, along the outside edges, and then folding it into the center line. So that if there is any gap, there isn't any double-sided tape peeking through. However, Lavender and Twine just released a strap freebie with all different kinds of ways to make straps. So you could even do the leather strap where it's got like a little peek of the fabric in between. I think that would look really pretty. but I'm not gonna do that. So, A for effort that I didn't make. I did not skive any pieces of my handles. I probably should have skived the lower edge, or the side edges, I should say, just like I skived the strap connectors so that there isn't as much bulk, but oh well. You could also do a double-sided handle, but I really just love the feel of this leather, so I didn't want anything else with it. And then again, I'm just going to butt the edges of it together. Now you can't really do this with vinyl because, I don't know, I guess you could. But I've seen different leather bag makers do this, where it's that raw edge in the center and doesn't seem to make too big of a difference. I believe this is a studio side from Tandy Leather. I think those are some of my favorites. They're like just almost too thick to use without a skiver, but if you're very careful about how you use it, you can get away with it. Okay, so now I'm just going to top stitch at like 1/4 of an inch. And that is so it's less likely to peel away, etc. Guess I could use this magnetic seam guide. Well, that's covered in oil. Let's not. I just never do. Feels so nice. Alright, straps are done. So now I'm going to be working on my zippered pocket. I am using the water-resistant canvas for the lining. So I have interfaced this panel with a woven interfacing just because I want the lining to have a little bit more structure, especially where I add the zippered pockets. So I'm going to fold this in half. So that we have our center, and then I interfaced one side of this pocket with SewFuse Plus. I am not doing quite the same method shown in the pattern, but I am going to be using my 10-inch zippered pocket ruler. I'm going to lay that in the center of this piece and trace the inner box. And so now I have my 10-inch by 1/2-inch box. And then we're going to lay that right sides together. That would have been very bad. On my lining panel. All right, so we're going to line up that pocket 1.5 inches from the top. Yes. Oh, okay, I see. That was too far. Yeah. So the top of that pocket, 1.5 inches. So this would be about 2.5 inches. We'll go ahead and cut that open. I really want to start adding little scraps of SewFuse Plus to all of my zipper pockets because it just adds such a nice structured feeling. So like when you go to unzip the pocket, it's not like the zipper is gonna drag or kind of like, I don't know, it's not that serious. It's not like zipper pockets really do that anyway, but it really just adds this nice structure to it. So then I'm gonna iron this down. Now that I've ironed the heck out of this, grab my zipper, lay it in place, and I've cut it quite a bit longer so that my zipper pull can hang out over here. And I need to remember that this zipper pull is a little bit bigger than like the pop tab ones, so I need to leave myself a bigger opening when I bring this in. Starting with that top edge. I'm gonna leave that much open so that I can super easily pull my zipper pull in. All of those extra threads. I'm going to re-zip it, hold on to the end of my zipper, pull it back open, and then close it off. And then because we are doing a drop-in for this bag, I don't need to leave open the birthing hole. So we can just close that up. And I will cut off that extra zipper tape that's in my seam allowance. You do want to make sure that you have zipper tape within your seam allowance so that it doesn't start to fray or unravel over time, compromising your zipper pull. Zipper. You could add another zippered pocket into the lining if you wanted. And then because the water resistant canvas is a little bit thinner, what I'm going to be doing to counteract that is pulling, adding a little bit more tension to the fabric as I'm sewing. And that'll create any intense puckering. So you can see like there's a little bit, but not much. I've got this big open zippered pocket, and you can see like, you can just hear how sturdy that is. Look at that. Sophie's Plus, I'm telling you. We are now working on the lining slip pocket. I'm using 1/4 inch wide double-sided tape on the wrong side of the top and bottom. And this is a 15 by 15 square, so it doesn't matter unless your print is directional. And I know that this is the wrong side of the water resistant canvas because of the white creases. Okay, press that down and fold those over. If you wanted to, you could mark 1/2 inch from the top edge and fold that over to meet. And I did not add any interfacing to this piece. I think if I had, it would have been way too bulky. And then we're going to put right sides together. And we're just going to sew along the short sides. And then we'll flip that through. And then we'll press it. And top stitch along the bottom and the top. Oh yeah, this feels great. Okay. Top stitch. I'm going to fold this in half. And make a nice crease. If you have a preference on what is front and what is back, probably want to keep that in mind now. And I'm going to I'm actually not going to fold that or make a mark. I'm just gonna fold it over the ruler and top stitch that. And then I'll repeat that on this side. So I've got my center fold there. just going to fold it over my ruler. And fold it in place. And top stitch. I love these cargo pockets so much. I used to add these to a lot of different bags. I just stopped for some reason, I don't know. Grabbing my other lining piece, I'm gonna fold this in half. And we're gonna measure 2.5 inches from the top edge. In the center. Okay, if you need to, you can use a pin to hold that in place. I'm going to start with the bottom because we need to create a V shape when we top stitch this into place. So there's my bottom. And I'm going to stop and sew it in place like that. So I just stopped like 1/2 inch from that top stitching, and then you might even be able to add like a little rivet there if you wanted. But then we're going to fold in the pockets so that you don't see your crease anymore. Kind of cover that up. Trim down any excess threads. And then we're gonna sew that in place in a U shape, making sure that the top of the bag is open. So here's the bottom, and we're going to start here, sew along the bottom, and come back up towards the top. Making sure everything is nice and straight. You could even use a piece of painter's tape carefully to hold those together while you're sewing. And I'm going to back stitch over here, over that joined piece to help reinforce it. And then I'll go ahead and add a woven label because why not? And then I also have this label from Heartwood and Hide that I want to add just kind of right above. Well, now I'm not so sure that we'll actually see it, but I know where I can add it. All right, so I'm gonna add it kind of below my zippered pocket. So I've got it taped in place. I'll just sew around the outer edge, making sure that your zipper pocket pieces are way out of the way. Perfect. Just look how pretty that is. We are getting so close to being able to put everything together. We are now working on the divider for the lining. I have interfaced these exterior pieces with SewFuse Plus, and I haven't interfaced these at all. I didn't want to add too much bulk. We're going to take our 13-inch zipper from end to end. I did cut mine a little longer. I wasn't sure if I needed the extra, but you want it to be 13 inches from end to end. And then I have my zipper tabs that we're going to fold. And clip in place. You could also use double-sided tape. And now this is just going to be a large zipper pocket or zipper pouch, honestly, that goes in your bag. So I'm going to sew my zipper tabs into place, one and then the other. And I did make sure my zipper was nicely ironed so that I don't have any puckering or anything. And it looks like we want about an inch on either side of our zipper, maybe 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to base this into place. You could use double-sided tape. And then right sides together. And I am going to do this a little bit differently because I want to, well, maybe I won't. I was thinking, like, I don't really need to put right sides together. And then I could do kind of like the NCW, where the bottom has a raw edge, but then I'm top stitching over it to close off that raw edge, which might give a little more structure to the bottom of this divider pocket. So we'll see. Oh, got me. Okay, this is now the third bobbin for this bag, so you definitely want to make sure you are prepared. I actually made 5 just in case, but I think we should be good with about 4. I do want to start with a fresh bobbin before I top stitch, especially going through the leather. Like I am so sorry. My camera cut out. I don't know why. But basically, you put right sides together. I just attached the zipper piece. And then I'll add right sides together for the lining piece. I don't know if it's like my phone needs to update or if it's the remote I'm using to start and stop that keeps like frying it out. I don't know. And I'm going to iron this so we can top stitch through the lining and the exterior. And then you put right sides together for your lining and right sides together for your exterior, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. And I'm not going to because I want to create a really nice bottom edge. So what I'm gonna do is kind of like the NCW, is put right sides together for the exterior and put the lining there as well, and just sew all of that down. And then I'm going to flip it through. Oh, this is a sign that it might not work well. No, I think it will. So that now. And I'm going to flip it. And then I'm going to top stitch along that bottom edge to hide the raw edge. I'm going to iron this. And then I'm just going to top stitch through that. And I'm going to baste the sides together as well. And trim off any excess material. So that creates this really thick spine along the bottom edge for the center divider to really have a lot of shape. Once again, man, if this is all that turns out good on this bag, I am fine with it. So pretty. Got the spare thread kind of hanging out bottom. Snip that. And then I'll zip it to the middle so that it's no risk of going within our seams. Okay, so for piece J, I am measuring 1 inch from the top edge of each side. And this piece is like 2 1/4, so it does matter. So I've marked it with an arrow, the actual top. And when I was fusing these, I just fused it as one piece and kept it together so I'd have less pieces until I got to my machine. So I will set these aside for now with my arrows facing up and a clip at the top edge as well. And then we can work on our zipper panel. I'm doing mine just a little bit differently, but either way is correct. I measured like 1 inch or so from the outer edge. I'm going to take this piece of double-sided tape and then fold the raw edge to meet up with that 1 inch line. And then I'm going to cut these apart. Again, I fused them kind of all as one piece until I was ready. And honestly, that kind of made the amount of pieces this pattern needs a little less overwhelming. All right, and then we're on to our last zipper. And we're going to fold down the edge. And I'm just going to use a lighter to kind of gently hold that together instead of basting. So get them till they're melty. Press it together, and then I'm just using clips to hold it. And this does take a little bit getting used to. And you can use the clips to help hold it together while it's melting. You don't want to go too far though. There we go. And then I'm going to use 1/8 inch wide double-sided tape to hold it in place over my zipper panel. And it's not really going to matter the direction of the print. I don't think anyone would notice, but still. And then we'll lay the zipper into place, face down on the exterior. And then I'll add the lining piece at the same time. And top stitch. And you can add another piece of double-sided tape to hold the lining in place if you want. I'm not that worried about it. I can keep track of one layer at a time. Both of these pieces are interfaced with SewFuse Plus, so I didn't feel the need to add that stabilizer to the panel. It's pretty darn stable as is. And then I'll just iron this open and top stitch. Okay. And then I'm lining up one edge of the zipper panel, and then I'll flip it over to get my zipper nicely placed. Oh, a little bit of my tape didn't peel off. And then I find it easiest to unzip my zipper so that I don't have to worry about my zipper pull being in the way, etc. And then I'll add my lining piece. And iron that open and top stitch. And zip it up. That's very nice. And then I'm going to mark out the center. Okay, I'm going to start with my lining piece with the zipper so that my zippers are going in the same direction. And I'm going to line up my center snips. I like to just lay that in place. You can base that in place. I'm going to grab my lining piece and then make sure my side with the arrow is pointing down. Make sure there's an inch mark pointing down, not touching where you're about to sew. And then a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then we're gonna sew underneath the zipper panel. And what that does is it keeps your zipper panel like in an upward trajectory instead of down where it's always in. So it's kind of cool. It doesn't work on every bag. Like the Velora bag, it doesn't work on because of the magnetic closure. But it's a, I'm gonna call it a perky zipper pocket panel. And then we'll just repeat that on the other side. Oh, so excited. I'm getting close to being done. And then again, my arrows are pointing down. This is my 1 inch mark. This is not. I don't think I need this ruler anymore, so I'm gonna hang that back away. Okay, and then we're going to repeat the perky zipper pocket panel. Make sure you're not sewing through anything else. Okay. So here's our lining pieces. When I open it up, there's the top, and you can see how stand-uppity that pocket panel is. And now we get to add our divider. So this divider does not close up the bottom of the bag. Things can still get under. Oh, 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. And this bag could be made without it if you don't want to add it. And I am gonna try my best to make sure the zippers are going in the same direction. I'm gonna clip this in place and baste. And repeat on the other side. And because the bottom of the bag is squared, you're going to be shifting it over. So it's squared, which means it's a little bit tapered, the bag. So we'll flip that, baste that in place. So we're going to start with one side first. Make sure you line up that top accent piece. I'm going to start with the edge I just basted. And I'm going to increase my seam allowance just a tiny, tiny bit. And then as I get closer to the top, I'm going to stick with that 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then we're going to pull on that center divider to line up the other side. Making sure I'm taking care to line up that accent piece at the top where my zipper panel is attached and down here. So that things don't shift, I'm gonna line up the bottom panel corner and add a clip away from where I'm going to be sewing. And then we'll sew up the bottom. Now, if you were birthing this bag, I would say don't sew up the bottom if you can help it. And I don't really think there's a way that you could add a center divider and sew it to the bottom. I mean, I guess if you like left part of it a raw edge, you might be able to somehow squeeze it into place, but because of the corner, it would just be really kind of an awkward situation. So keep that in mind. Okay, I'm gonna unclip. Just gonna kind of double check that everything is looking good. Oh, it's looking great. And then we'll square the bottom of our bag. So I'm gonna butterfly those seams open. I'm not gonna trim down my seam allowances. I don't think it's super necessary. I will, however, do that on the corners so that there isn't bulkiness sitting in the corners, making it look like the lining doesn't quite fit. Clipping those corners to square the bottom. And so now we can tape just above that 1-inch line. Pressing open our side seam. That. I'm going to press that tape again to make sure as I'm peeling it, it comes up nicely. And again, you don't want to untape everything at once. You want to work in slow sections. If I had used waterproof canvas that has that thicker backing, I definitely wouldn't have added SewFuse Plus, but I find that the water resistant canvas is just kind of thin, especially for my machine. So I always like to make sure I interface it if it's not like a pocket or something. If it's not going to be doubled on itself, I guess is the better tell. So I'm just making sure to press as I go. I do not want this to come undone at all. Make this time for nothing. So I'm pressing, I'm pulling and pressing this seam open. So pulling it apart and pressing down so that everything stays together. And then we're on this last little section. So I'll just pull off the rest of my tape and press it down. While again, like pulling at the seam to make sure everything sits nicely. Oh, good golly. Look at that. Oh my goodness gracious. Get out of here. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Just want to give you a quick little tour there. So we've got this great big zippered pocket. You can see our top edge nicely folded, and you can see just how perky that zipper panel is. So we're ready to drop it in to the exterior. All right, I am double checking that my tape is secure. I don't think I need to add another piece of tape. I guess if you're really worried, you could. I think we'll be fine. And then depends on where you want your zipper, which way you want your zipper to go. I think I want it to go like that. Like this will be the front. Although, yeah, this will be the front. I was gonna say, although my tag is on this side, but I don't care, it's just for me. So then we're going to lay that down and just clip along the top edge. I almost wonder if I should add like a piece of 1/8 inch wide double-sided tape, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I don't anticipate the layers shifting. I haven't decided if I'm going to top stitch this on my flatbed Juki or if I'm going to try to use the cylinder arm. Just don't know. So yeah, you want to push that into place. I'm going to unzip my zipper panel. Definitely line up those sides. Push down any extra threads, etc. you might have. Oh my god. Delicious. This bag is just delicious. It's the only descriptive word I can think of. My zipper panel might be a little too peppy with the 2 layers of SewFuse Plus, so I think probably should have just done 1, but I think it will kind of soften over time. What a perfect fit. Oh my god. And honestly, if I kept the clips on, I wouldn't be mad. It all just kind of coordinates. This bag is so insanely structured. I am loving it. So you can see there's that zipper panel. Yeah, it'll definitely soften over time. And I am just so used to my zipper panels pointing down that I'm not used to it, but you can see how nice it opens. It holds its shape to the side of the bag, so you can really see in all sides. I'm just kind of double checking everything before I top stitch it, and I'm too scared to ruin it. We've been here for so long. But here is that front pocket. I think if I did this again, I might shorten this by 1 inch, just because it's a little hard to get my hand in there. But I mean, there's no problem. I think honestly my seam allowances were a little off, so that's why it's a little off. Look at that leather. Okay, let's finish. Okay, I have double checked that my bobbin is in correctly. Stitching looks great. Everything feels like it should be right. So we're gonna use the TechSew. I've got a light here. It's not plugged in. It is plugged in. Just, oh, there's like less bright and super bright. Okay, why am I so nervous? I think it's because this machine needs to come out a little bit. No, I'm too afraid to move it. But my chain stitch machine is like in my back. Okay, let's just do it. So I'm gonna set up my edge guide. Is that the closest I'm gonna be able to get? I guess so. I don't know if that's close enough to the top edge for me. So I don't know that the edge guide is really going to help me much. Okay. Making sure I've got my threads to start. I've got a brand new bobbin in there. Push your zipper panel out of the way. I'm starting behind the strap connector. Just gonna go nice and slow. The automatic needle positioner is in the down position. And I'm getting scared that my layers are shifting. Like the pressure of this foot is so great that it kind of shifts fabrics around. So I'm gonna try to loosen it if I can. Okay, let's see if that kind of helped. Might have. And then I have my hump jumper, the magic knob, up a little high, so I'm gonna move that down so that the side feet kind of start to help. I don't know if you guys can see, like those aren't touching the fabric. And I realize this could be a me issue, and I'm probably shouldn't do a video with this machine until I know it completely, but we're a community, we can all learn together, right? I will say this machine has a lot of power and the stitches are beautiful. Madeline reminded me I can't go as fast as I do on my Juki, so I'll slow down. I've got my stitch length set to 5, which looks good to me. And I'm kind of holding the layers together as I go, and my hand is inside to push the zipper panel down. I think what's hard is that the leather does have some stretch to it, so that could explain some of the layers kind of shifting a little bit too. Okay, we can probably start to get rid of some of these clips. I don't know that I really would have had an issue top stitching this with my Juki. I probably just would have had to do it with the lining side facing the foot instead of my exterior. Because yeah, I just keep feeling like the layers are shifting. It's not feeding it through together. All right, so I'm getting towards this seam here, so I'm going to use the little knob at the top to lift up my feet so that I don't get any skipped stitches. It'll just kind of walk over that height difference nicely. Still going slow, of course. Making sure zipper panel is out of the way. And then I'm going to come back down with that foot. Moving my zipper panel out of the way. We're almost there. Here, I'll zoom out so you guys can see a little bit more. So honestly, this seam guide is doing very little in the way of guiding the fabric, but I'm just gonna keep it there. You don't want it too close, otherwise your foot's gonna hit it, so. I get it. We're getting close to the other side, the other side seam. So I want to make sure that I'm turning this knob that's up here to raise the height of the outer foot, the outer toes, pushing my zipper panel out of the way. Increase our incline. We're getting close to the end. We did. And I've only aged slightly in stress. Then I'm going to pull my threads to the back side, tie them off, and cut them. So now I have clipped my straps on. This is the 26-inch length handles, and I think they look pretty perfect. You could even go a little bit shorter and do little arm crookie handles. So maybe take and do 20-inch handles or something. That could be really nice too. But I'm just going to rivet my handles on and add my zipper end, and this bag is done. This video is pretty long, so I'm just gonna do those off camera, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. This bag is amazing. Okay, bye. Look what I made. What do you think?